Greetings, salutations to you. A belated Merry Christmas if you celebrate that holiday. Uh, you'll notice if you have been following my videos as they have been intended to be published day after day after day for 12 consecutive days. Alas, I did fall into the sort of end of the year trap of being drawn into end of the year activities and needing to catch up on sleep and from those things. So I will attempt to get us back on track here. So apology for the 3-day delay from the last time I published one of these videos. But without further ado, as I think I've said in each video, maybe one of my expressions I should start to excise from my vocabulary. So this is day 6 of the 12 days of mobility and strength. Today it'll be pretty relaxed, and we'll do most of it on the floor. Things you'll need are a Swiss ball. I assume it came from Switzerland originally, but this one is from Gold's Gym. No sponsorship there. You'll also need a smaller Physio ball. This is one from Tune Up Fitness that I have in my arsenal. And if you have it, a little hand weight, right? And I will explain what these are for as we get to them. As always, I like to remind you that it's important to listen to your body to make sure that nothing we do causes excessive discomfort. You know, make sure it's quote-unquote good pain that you feel and not something that hurts now and will continue to hurt afterwards. So use that inner voice to know when to back off of something. And if you want to make something harder, feel free. I won't know unless you tell me in the comments section, and which I would love to hear anyway, if you went easier or harder, or what you thought of the practice. So we'll start off with this first exercise that it's a navel massage, and I don't mean like military navel, I mean like belly button. So I learned this as something to do face down on this ball, but I'm electing to change things up a bit because it's always good to try out things in new positions to gravity. So if you take this ball, which is pretty squishy, has a little give to it, and more importantly, it has a lot of grip to it because you want to be gripping pretty well. So if you take the ball and then just place it, this is a little bit of a warm-up for the next exercise, which will involve some spinal extension and hip extension, so you want to have a little bit of pliability there. I won't spend a ton of time on this, but you can push the ball in and then try to get a little grip there. And then you try to spin it clockwise. And then just get it to a point where it feels like you could, take 5 to 10 relatively deep breaths with this, assuming that you've gotten to a point where it feels like, oh, I'm grabbing onto some things and it's maybe just slightly uncomfortable. It sort of feels like, I don't know, indigestion or some kind of tension lodged in the abdominal area that could use a little dislodging. So that's something to keep trying. If it feels like it gets easier, then you try to wind it up a little bit more, It's very important that in our fitness world where we're always, getting hyped up and a lot of cardiovascular upregulation, which of course has its place, but do you also place just as much emphasis on trying to calm yourself down? Because Lord knows our systems need that, our nervous systems. Now, after you've been doing clockwise for a little while, you can release the ball and just kind of let the belly button area, the navel, reset itself, and then you place the ball back on, and then you try to go counterclockwise. So in terms of quick context, there's a lot to be touched on, pun not intended really, with this, because we are touching our guts right now. But we were once attached 2, and I'm just getting a little more comfortable with this, crossing my ankles. So we were once attached to the umbilical cords. When we were in our mother's wombs. Thanks for the womb service, Mom. So, maybe you can meditate on a little bit of the nourishment you got all those 9 months. But you can also meditate on the fact that you're starting to grip at, the longer you hold this, the more you push in, you're starting to grip at at all the layers of soft tissue, and then eventually maybe the viscera gets pulled into that. So this could help a little bit with digestion. So feel free to do that a little bit longer if you'd like to, for the purposes of expeditiousness. Is that a word? I don't know. So I had actually intended to show you that move with this hand weight, but so I don't fall into a trap of being turned into an internet meme. I'm just going to describe this instead of show it, but in place of the ball I was just using, you could place the end of the hand weight on your belly button. And this weight I have here is, it's got a little bit of a sort of a rubbery sandpaper quality. I don't know how else to describe it. That's off the top of my head. So it can do, a different kind of job, but similar to this in terms of how much it can grab at the skin and the tissues there within, underneath. But the thing with the weight is that, this end of it would be touching your belly button. This other end could be where your hands are, trying to drive it in there, and then spiral it a little bit. You get in there and see if this denser, more compact, and very differently shaped and more dense tool, that would give you an entirely different experience. So you can get in there and do this, anywhere 5 to 10 minutes if you'd like to. So do that on your own at home, away from the camera, I guess. All right, so next, hopefully that was somewhat clear. So this is an attempt to just give you an opportunity to work on some self-massage techniques that maybe I haven't touched on in previous videos. Next, so that was a little bit of a lead up for this next exercise, which I call the unfolded sit-up on the Swiss ball. First of all, if you think about a regular sit-up, not an irregular sit-up, then you already start with this open pelvis position. Not quite hip extension, but not totally in hip flexion either. And you would crunch up. And then technically I don't do crunches that often. And when I do, I would need to hook my feet under something, which I'll do here. It's challenging to do without someone holding onto your feet. So that takes you into this acute angle of going into a sit-up. So if we were to unfold the sit-up, this is what happens. So this will ask quite a bit of your quadriceps and hip flexors in terms of being pliable and stretchy for you. So keep that in mind. My feet are also in plantar flexion here. And if you just wanted a little more stretch in your feet, you could tuck your toes and go into toe extension. So to do this unfolded sit-up on the Swiss ball, you try to maintain a posterior tilt. So glance at your screen for a second if you turned away. So this is a rudimentary demo of my tailbone, and you're trying to posteriorly tilt it. So scoop it forward and up. This will create a little bit of traction in your lower back and contraction in your abdominal muscles while they're also being challenged to lengthen a little bit. So kind of 2 birds with 1 stone kind of thing. So you squeeze your glutes and then just lift them, as high as you can get them, and squeeze them particularly at their peak. One could argue this is maybe a loose archetype of the hip thruster, right? So 10 of these, as I find the right count on my fingers. So here we go. Right? So up, 10, going down, 9. You could take your hands behind your head if you want to. 8, 7, squeezing buttocks. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Then, just as a kind of a pose, counter pose thing, we can come up and do a forward fold with the hands on the Swiss ball and then take that into extension. So, show you that. You come up slowly. Then, hip hinge, hooray. We're finally in a new position. So, I'm trying to maintain, like you think of a bird at a bird bath, I suppose, just hinging right over from the tops of its legs. So, using the ball can also, just give you some support. If you do have hamstrings that are a little bit on the tighter side. With all that said, if you do need to bend your knees, please do that. My core muscles are drawn in a little bit. I've reached out enough where I can get my forearms here. I'm trying to push them down into the ball so that I don't get, just like I'm kind of hanging here like a poulet rôti, succumbing to gravity. So you can also then make it a little bit more of a lat stretch on one side by moving the ball over to the right. And I've reached my left hand out just a little bit farther. And then depending on the, you should be able to get pretty good grip on the ball. You try to pull the ball towards you with your left hand and push into it with your right hand. And you can even wrap the left hip around a little bit. So if you think of a bird's eye view, the left hip is trying to do a U-turn around toward the right. And if that is as clear as mud, then just ignore it and keep doing the initial cues associated with this position. And we'll do that to the other side. You walk the ball over to the right, or excuse me, to the left. And then I've walked my right hand a little farther. Then you can push into it with your left hand and then try to pull with the right. And then the right hip is trying to reach behind me. And the left hip even kind of pulls toward the ball a little bit too. So that'll just give you that slight bit of hip depression on the right side and elevation on the left to create more latissimus dorsi stretch on the right. Then, after a forward fold, maybe you do a back bend. Then, hands around the ball here, just holding it up. Squeeze your buttocks. And then you can let that ball reach straight back. Kind of revisiting a buttock contraction that we just did in those unfolded sit-ups on the Swiss ball. Come on up. And that's it. That's it for this session, this day 6 session. So thank you very much for watching. I invite you to like it on YouTube and to subscribe. And like and subscribe anywhere else this might show up. I don't know. If you want to find out other ways to contact me and see other content that I've posted elsewhere, click on the description box on this video. And if you are in a generous mood, hey, it's that time of year, I do have a link to my digital tip jar, i.e. my Venmo account, also in the description box. So not necessary, but certainly appreciated. Thanks very much for watching, and I will see you soon in another video.